Robert, are you on?
Go ahead, Brent.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of November minutes. You should have had the opportunity to review the minutes. Does anyone have any corrections? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. This is Freddie Malone.
Second, this is Shannon.
Any further discussion? Lindsay, will you please do a roll call?
Muted.
Frank Carr,
Here.
Shannon Castillo,
Yes.
Tracy Johnson,
Yes.
Jody Jones,
Yes.
Brent Long,
Yes.
Freddie Malone,
Yes.
William Roller,
Yes.
Seth Thomas,
Yes.
Craig Torbett,
Yes.
Robert Williams,
Yes.
and Joe Wise.
Yes.
And that carries. Moving on to the John Sevier Task Force. The operations team has been evaluating the management agreement for several months, and I'd like to ask Diana and Jim to share with us the direction the committee and the John Sevier Task Force is recommending.
Thank you. Just a little background information. The Operations Committee has taken several months to evaluate the current management agreement with M&M. The presentation today will give you the ability to discern what the best path forward is for the John Sevier residents and the Jcda. We anticipate at least 2 more years of the property being a HUD subsidy. So the Operations Committee wants to ensure that we are doing all we can for the residents. Just a small background reminder that the property was built almost 100 years ago. It was converted into low-income housing about 40 years ago. We purchased it in 2019 for future redevelopment, but we also want to ensure safe, clean, comfortable housing. The Jcda has an MOU with LHP Capital. We should be hearing from them by mid-January, and we have a timeline for another 2 to 3 years for new housing to be available. The property has been managed by M&M Property Management for about 20 years. We signed a 1-year contract with them to continue managing the John Sevier, and that contract expired on August 28th. We have a month-to-month agreement with them currently. We have requested M&M to consider modifying their financial arrangement, but they have elected not to do so. As a community entity, we just felt like it was prudent to examine and solicit competitive management agents. And we have received a proposal for facility management from the Johnson City Housing Authority at a lower cost than we have for the M&M arrangement. So the following pages are going to provide you with a comparison. I want to remind you the goal for our current goal is to provide clean, safe, healthy environment for the current and future residents of the John Sevier. And that is what guided all of our evaluations. We divided our evaluation into 4 categories: resident and services and retention, maintenance and building upkeep, cost management, and financial reporting. And I'll turn it over to Jim and let him go through the evaluation.
Thank you, Diana. We took those 4 categories that Diana just mentioned, and we broke that down into 20 different aspects that we wanted to evaluate the current management of the building with the future management of the building. We prepared a detailed spreadsheet. You can see a little tiny picture of it here, showing the 20 factors, and they include cost, processing, staffing, experience, all the categories. And we have sent that spreadsheet to everyone already. So, and it's included here today, but that's a lot of data. So I'm just going to review the summary of it. So as Diana said, the most important criteria for every category is a consistent delivery of high quality services to the residents to provide a clean, safe, and healthy environment. Almost all of the John Sevier residents receive housing assistance from HUD, and they tend to be employed or underemployed, employed or unemployed, and may have some physical constraints with an average age of 60. As the comparison spreadsheet shows, the JCHA offers superior resident services in many categories compared with M&M. Food bank and pantry distribution, social services, and connections to multiple sport organizations have been considered. And there's also an opportunity with JCHA. They have 2 AmeriCorps volunteers now, and they may be able to add another one just to support the John Sevier. For a building of the John Sevier Center's age, as Diana said, over 40 years ago it was created. There were 2 areas of the 20 that we really wanted to highlight. One is general maintenance and repairs. And in the case of M&M property, they have several generalists, basically skilled and unskilled generalists working there on staff that do most of the maintenance. And for specialized systems, they call in people from the outside. In the case of the JCHA, they have their own certified staff of skilled trade professionals, which are shared across their properties. And this includes in-house pest control, the HVAC systems, electrical wiring, plumbing, carpentry, and grounds maintenance. These people with the JCHA, they'll come in as needed, and the time will be billed out rather than having full-time staff employees. In terms of pest control, there's a huge difference. The M&M has a contract with a pest control company that comes and looks every month but the JCHA has a real war against pest control, and they have monthly inspections every unit by their inspectors who are all trained in pest control, and the units are treated every month as needed. And what the JCHA has said that they really need to do, and we agree, is to spend up to $30,000 upfront in the first year to make sure that those rooms are clear. And we have seen recently some evidence of infestations that make us believe this is really a critical part of the deal.
Jim, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
With our current pest control contract, how much is that costing us per year?
That's a good question, Brent, and I don't have that amount.
But we are paying it. It's not paid out of the management fee that M&M takes, correct?
That's right. Yeah, it's a pass through like all the other operating expenses.
Okay. So that $30,000 may or may not be more than we're currently paying, but we are paying something.
Yeah, Jim, I'll jump in here. I don't quote me on this number, Brent, but I think it's about 6,000 or 7,000 a year. And it can go up and down if there are problems that require additional service, but it's a substantial increase, and we don't expect it to last, but it is the way they operate. And this is the first thing they said when we talked to them, and it's the last thing they said. So I have had my own reservations about the amount, but I think at this point you trust them and the way they manage, and I think you have to go with it.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for pest control. Diana?
Do you have any idea what the annual cost would be after that first year?
In our discussions with them, the annual cost, and I know I don't have those cost numbers here, is expected to be about the same as it is with M&M. With the idea though that we get a lot better service because JCHA has their own trained people to go in, and those people go in every month. And if they see something, they're going to eradicate it. That's their goal.
And I will say also add in that when they do their pest control trained technicians are also trained to evaluate and make recommendations to the management based on, and they do a courtesy evaluation of each apartment when they go in. So if they see evidence of drug use, if they see what they maybe is poor housekeeping, maybe some other needs, they take that information back to JCHA. And so not only are they going in and just spraying, but they're doing an evaluation of every apartment every single month.
One of the
I'll just
things,
add, oh, I'm sorry.
one of the things I think we have to be aware of and be careful of is if in the past calls like this were just made on a need basis, and now there's going to be regular visits every month, that's something that needs to be communicated to the tenants so that they don't feel they're being infringed upon in any way. Obviously, we have to give them some notice. I think it's 24 hours before they can visit the apartments. But just to let them know that, you know, whatever their lease agreement is standing will stay that way until they renew that lease. And then things will change. So that there's no miscommunication and they're curious why someone's coming into their apartment once a month now, as opposed to variably before.
Yeah, and Diana, I don't know if you want to comment on the planned communication if this change goes through, but I would think that I agree with you, Seth. That's critical for the well-being and the happiness of the residents.
I'll get to that later on.
Okay, so in terms of just a generalized cost management look at this, the JCHA's management fee is 6% of revenue versus 7.5% with M&M, and that's a $15,000 per year difference. I've already mentioned something about staffing, but the M&M currently maintains 8 full-time staff and a half-time bookkeeper at the John Sevier, whereas a JCHA would only have 3 full-time on-site staff, and with the other work done by their existing specialized shared staff that we've already discussed. Based on the shared cost model, JCHA is expected to save around $30,000 per year in labor for unit turnaround costs and normal maintenance and repairs. And this would be every year. And that's because they have the team that does that instead of each room turnaround being a separate project. And we've already mentioned the pest control, which is the last comment there. There's also a lot of upgrades with regard to JCHA for the central office approach to financial management. That will eliminate the need for a dedicated bookkeeper, and that provides a savings of $24,000 per year. M&M uses non-cloud-based manual and computer systems, which would be very difficult to upgrade. Whereas the JCHA maintains a cloud-based data system with 24-hour coverage for security and other critical areas. We think that in almost every aspect of financial management, it appears that JCHA proposal will be superior to what we're getting from M&M now. And by upgrading the reporting now, it could assist in future transfer of the HAP contract when that time comes. So in the summary, at the bottom of the spreadsheet is the summary where we do the weighted scores for all the 20 categories. And when you add up those weights, M&M scored 730 points versus JCHA 991 points. So there's quite a difference overall. We scored each category green for the one who won that category if you look at the whole thing, you'll see more green on the JCHA side as well. So just to read out the conclusion, the weighted score at the bottom of this, the weighted score of the above categories clearly points to JCHA as a superior option for managing the John Sevier Center. There will be some changes for residents, but because we hope to maintain on-site management, the same to key people, the changes to the community feel of the JSC should be minimal. The JCHA can provide more consistent, high quality management of nearly all the processes, including resident experience, community involvement, maintenance, leasing, pest control, etc., at a lower overall cost after the first year. So clearly our recommendation is with the current goal of being to ensure the clean, safe, and healthy environment for the residents of John Sevier, that the weighted score of the above categories clearly points to JCHA as a preferred option for managing the John Sevier Center. There will be some changes for residents, but because we are planning to maintain the existing on-site management, the two top people, the changes to the community feel of the JSC should be minimal. We think the JCHA, as I mentioned, will provide more consistent, high quality management of nearly all the processes. And as I mentioned, resident experience, community involvement, etc., at a lower overall cost. And that is our recommendation.
So I'll give you the timeline of this transfer if you choose to go with Johnson City Housing Authority as the management agent. We identify them, we submit some documentation to HUD. There, we have to submit a management agreement, a management plan, our new insurance form in 2 different forms. HUD asks for that information in a with a 60-day timeline. They review the our submission as well as the agent's eligibility, past performance, management capacity, and experience, and then their bond coverage. They have to issue a decision within 45 days, and then we would agree to the management agreement with the Johnson City Housing Authority. I've spoken with Richard McLean from Johnson City Housing Authority about the this vote this morning and what they would need to submit. They are already working on that, and we have set a deadline as this Friday week, the 18th, but he feels like that he could get that information to us sooner. That would give us, with the holidays, about a 66-day timeline. He feels comfortable in going with a March 1 transfer of the management agreement. And that's it.
Diana,
I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Joe, you go ahead. That's fine.
Well, I think in response to Seth's observation about pest control, he's right. But I also think the value in a more proactive approach to pest control would seem to be an easy sell to residents where pests have been a problem in the past. And so, you know, I think that's something we just need to get out in front of and sell, like I'm sure we will. I would make a motion to accept and I'm glad we have more initials, the JCHA engagement in this effort.
I agree with you on that, Joe. I think it's a great idea. It's just, you know, trying to prevent some discord in the community.
I have a question. And forgive me, Jim, if you or Diana, if y'all addressed this earlier, but how, I agree with this plan, and I would be in favor of moving towards the Johnson City Housing Authority for management. How will you retain the top 2 employees at the Sevier Center? Are they M&M employees? Have y'all addressed that and I missed it?
Right. No. So they are M&M employees, and I have had an initial discussion with Harry Gibson from M&M to let him know that we, if we do make a change, that we would be interested in speaking with David and Ann. The plan was to actually have a conversation with them this week. Unfortunately, David has been in the hospital. And Ann has been dealing with a lot of things. I stopped by there yesterday afternoon to talk with her about this, and she had already left for the day. But we had originally planned on taking them to lunch just to discuss what the possibility could be. We feel like that they are very committed to the residents and the building, and that they would be willing to go with Johnson City Housing Authority. We have already discussed that with them, and they said that they probably would have better health benefits, and they're both, Anne has retired from the school system, so she already has a retirement through the city, but we feel like they're committed enough to the residents that they would transfer over.
So what you're saying is JCHA would be willing to hire them?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
has JCHA, are they on board with that as well?
Yes.
I think it's a great
Yes.
plan. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. That's all
definitely.
I had.
That was part of the original discussion. Is we really value, I mean, David was the maintenance supervisor before he was property management. He knows all about the boilers and all of that. And we feel like that he is very integral to this, but we also need to add, some, the Johnson City Housing employees that would come over are very skilled labor, which will be a benefit. Anne's responsibility will probably change somewhat. She handles all of the application and the leasing process. In her job, she will continue to accept the applications, but then she would turn them over to the Johnson City Housing, so she won't have to do the background checks, but that will free her up to do resident services, which is really where her energy comes from, and she's so good at that we really feel like that this is going to be a benefit to the residents and to her.
This is Shannon. I just have one comment. First of all, excellent job. It's hard to make a change like this, but I think you guys have done an excellent job. I think you may have avoided some major backlash by trying to figure out how to keep the top 2 employees. So I think that is the key of making this work. But change is hard on people. So we be prepared that people will probably be upset, but I think you've done an excellent job. I think this is a good plan.
So Jody and I have written a letter to the residents, and it's already printed, ready to go, that we will take over immediately this morning if you all choose to vote to go with JCHA. The goal is really to continue to keep the residents informed. So we felt like a letter this morning that would be taken to each of their doors, and then I think the additional delivery of lunch and the small gift that we're providing will go a long way next week as well.
Diana, would you please share the press release that you prepared if this announcement gets approved?
Yes.
Well, and Hank, while she's pulling that up, you were going to say something earlier, and maybe it was about the press release, but do you have any thoughts about this transition?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about it. I have a lot of worries and concerns about it, and I will tell you that we have wrung our hands over this for 4 or 5 months now. I'll give great compliments to the staff. They worked very hard, and we've driven a pretty hard bargain to try to figure out how to do this correctly. And I think everybody needs to just be prepared for this is not going to be a simple decision and implementation. This is going to be very difficult. 100-year-old building, a very historical operations process, going into a new one, a lot of discovery. We're going to find things we didn't know. They're not bad. They're just different ways of management. We have to be prepared to react here. But to the credit of the team, this is in the best interest of the residents. One thing I will say, we can't make the housing authority engage anybody. What we did is suggest and encourage and support several key people. What we said was the way you manage many of your other properties isn't going to work here. you must maintain on-site management day to day, and you must do some certain things. All that will get washed out in the management agreement, but we can't even get to a management agreement, and because we're dealing with a public entity, we have to, as a group, affirm the decision to have this negotiation and move into it with the goal of making the transition. But there's still a lot of work to do. This is just the first big step. And so I believe that the Housing Authority will do the right thing. And I believe that M&M will do the right thing. I'm very optimistic that this will be a smooth transition. Everybody's going to be looking. And we need to do it for the right reasons. And I think this proposal outlines all that. So I tell you all that to say the Operations Committee supports it unanimously. It's coming to you with a recommendation, but don't think this is a decision today and you won't hear much about it for the next year. This will require a whole lot of work. And maybe a whole bunch of approvals in the future. Maybe we are able to save some money after a year or two. But don't go into this expecting to save money. Go into it expecting to do the right thing for the residents and for the community. So just approach it with an open mind.
Has the JCHA had an opportunity, or will they have an opportunity to examine the building just so they kind of know what they're getting into as far as maintenance and upkeep?
So I'll kind of let Diana maybe or somebody else. They have acknowledged they are familiar with the building, and they are entering this with open eyes. They know what the challenges are, and they believe that their processes will meet the standards that we've laid out. And that's all I can say. I mean, I had personal conversations with Richard, and I know Diana and Jim have had many conversations. I've had several, but I guess the last piece to this puzzle, what I was going to say a minute ago, Freddie, was I made numerous attempts to engage M&M on a conversation about this. And their position was, this is our agreement. We honor our agreement, and we want to work, but we understand that, you're going to look at other options. So numerous attempts have been made by many parties.
I will add a couple of things. My discussion with HUD earlier this week, they were very, our account executive, John Severe, is considered a troubled HUD property. And she was very positive about the way that the HUD paperwork is submitted by M&M, but she did agree that the REAC inspection scores have been very troubling, and has put them at, has put the property at a danger. And the fact that we could show where M&M was doing, had a plan for resident services and had a stronger plan for pest control and unit turnover with their employees, she did agree that there was a benefit in those areas. The press release is on your screen.
Yeah, hey, Diana, before we do that, I want to add one other topic for the group to really think about. Before you take action on this, I believe it would be prudent for us to grant the chairman or Brent the privilege of having the approval to spend up to $25,000 for what I'm going to call incentives to, if necessary, to entice certain vendors and or team members to remain through the end of the contract. Anytime a project like this becomes public and it becomes, there's an ending in sight, okay? And what we want to do is just keep a good team in place. So I would recommend that we add I would ask that we put an amendment on the end of the motion in the recommendation by the board to give the chairman of the JCDA the right to spend up to $25,000 for incentives, if you will, if necessary, for certain team members to remain through the end of the contract period.
So more of a retention incentive, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but better choice of words. Yeah, it's a retention incentive. It may not be necessary. This all may just go perfectly well, but I don't want to be troubling you all with a lot of small details here as we move through this next 90-day process. But I do think it would be prudent to have that $25,000 outside the approved John Sevier budget for the chairman to utilize if necessary. Diana, do you want to cover this and we can come back to that recommendation, that suggestion?
Cover the press release or the amount?
Yeah, you can cover the press release. And we can come
Okay,
back.
all right. So the press release, we just felt like that it was prudent to have everything ready to go out this morning. It covers the fact that we are beginning contract negotiations, what the goal of the JCDA is to provide that clean, safe, healthy environment, that it was a process that we evaluated for a long time and in multiple areas. There's a quote from Hank as the committee chair, complimenting M&M on their management over the years. And then we just talked about the 4 key areas that we have shared with you, and that it ultimately is going to be up to HUD for approval.
So this is, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that the press release be approved as presented and released appropriately, subject to the board's actions.
So to kind of clear this up, this is coming as a recommendation from the John Sevier Task Force to approve a request approval from HUD for a change in management agent with the goal of March 1st. And it sounds like, Hank, you're also adding on to that. You would like the ability for up to $25,000 in form of a retention incentive to be able to be used at the chair's discretion. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a second?
Excuse me. And then you want to add in, Hank, also to your motion that the press release is sent out immediately following the meeting.
Well, I do. I think somebody else actually made a motion to accept the recommendation in a separate conversation. I think Joe or somebody did. I don't need to.
Oh, that's right, Joe did.
Duplicate that. We can go back and revisit all this from a motion perspective, but I just want to get all the pieces on the table. You've got the recommendation, you've got the press release, and you've got the retention bonus that's added if necessary on the back end.
I'm happy to modify my initial motion to capture all 3 points.
Thank you, Joe. I think, did you make the second on it? I can't remember who did.
I haven't yet, but I will do so. I will second the, I guess, the modified motion. And I will just offer one, just an expression of thanks, I guess. This has been, I'm sure, an arduous process, and it seems to have been very well thought out and then very well presented. So thank you. And I would just say that I'm very familiar with Johnson City Housing Authority, very familiar with Richard McLean, the executive director, and many members of his staff. They do a good job. I mean, Richard runs a tight ship. So I think this is a good transition for not just the JCDA, but especially for the residents at the John Sevier. So I will second the motion.
All right. Any more questions? We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Okay. Hank Carr,
Yes.
Shannon Castillo,
Yes.
Tracy Johnson,
Yes.
Jody Jones, Brent Long,
Yes.
Freddie Malone,
Yes.
Aaron Murphy,
Yes.
Lindsay Nichols,
Yes.
William Roller,
Yes.
Seth Thomas,
Yes.
Craig Torbett,
Yes.
Robert Williams,
Yes.
and Joe Wise.
Yes, and I noticed a chat go by that indicated, I think that Jody's microphone wasn't working and she tried to vote yes by chat.
Yes, I saw that. I
Okay.
marked her down.
All right, thank you.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
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 I've had this problem and I think I just solved it. And I did want to just comment that, and this has been said, this was a lot of work. And thank you to Diana and Jim and Hank. We literally had a meeting every single Monday for like 6 weeks straight. And the work they did in between those meetings was amazing. And so super pleased with the work we did. I also want to say that, you know, our connection with residents really did inform some of this decision making. And if you're making New Year's resolutions or starting to think about New Year's resolutions, think about in the new year, trying to get over there and get to know some folks. Hopefully, you know, we're going to deliver these meals and packages next week. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we really have to limit how much we can interact with folks, but we really need our board to be part of that community, at least here and there. Our original plan back in February in the operations committee was to hold some regular get-togethers with residents, and it needs to happen, and hopefully it can in the new year at some point. That we at least make brief contact with them. Even just at Thanksgiving, just a couple minutes at everyone's door really helped us make, was part of the data collection that helped us make this decision. And it can't just be a few of us, it really needs to be everyone on the board that gets involved with that.
Thank you, Jody. Diana, I see you've got a letter from BCS pulled up on the screen here. Before we get to that, do you want to go over the approval of end of year bonus for the John Sevier Center employees?
Yes, thank you. So we have been asking for a year now for evaluations for staff at the John Sevier Center, and we received that this a week or two ago with a recommendation of bonuses. And so I'd like to make a recommendation that we use, I'm sorry, y'all, I don't have the amount in front of me. I think it's $4,600 to give bonuses to the, thank you, $4,500 for bonuses, year-end bonuses for the staff of the John Sevier, and those are weighted based on what position they hold, how long they've been there, and anywhere from $700 to $300. If you'll recall, last year they asked us to do those bonuses, and we asked them to prorate it based on the amount of time that we have we own the building, and then for the leading up to it, we have asked consistently for those staff evaluations, and we did receive them a few weeks ago. That would come out of the John Sevier operating account.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second. This is Jody.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
All righty. Hank Carr,
Yes.
Shannon Castillo, Tracy Johnson,
Yes.
Jody Jones,
Yes.
Brent Long,
Yes.
Freddie Malone,
Yes.
Aaron Murphy, Lindsay Nichols,
Yes.
William Roller,
Yes.
Seth Thomas,
Yes.
Craig Torbett,
Yes.
Robert Williams,
Yes.
and Joe Wise.
Yes.
And Aaron, I see that you just logged back on. You missed roll call. So Aaron Murphy,
Yes.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yep.
Moving on to the financial report and recommendations from BCS. Jim has a presentation concerning a recommendation. Jim?
Yes, thanks, Brent. This letter, we asked BCS to prepare it just to document the fact that during the audit, which is complete now, although the audit report isn't final, but during the audit, BCS determined that we were not accounting for the John Sevier operation properly, that it needed to be what they call an enterprise fund within the government accounting system that we have now. And that means that the John Sevier Center operation will be accounted for on a full accrual, commercial type basis, but still part of the government accounting process. But that created a whole number of things that we have to do. And that's why we put the letter in that you just see that recommendation came from them. I don't think any action's required on it, but it's what we have to do. And then next, if it's okay, Brent, I'll roll into the financial report.
Yes, please.
Okay, so as I mentioned, the audited financials were delayed a long time, and that's because of this process. And now that's done. The HUD financial report, which is a separate audited financial report that was filed on time. We were able to get an extension, and so we filed that on time 1 week before the deadline. And I attached a copy of it, although I will say that it's in electronic format, so it's not very readable, but you have a copy if you'd like to see it.
Jim, great job getting that done. I know that was a huge task. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was a challenge, like a puzzle, but it's moving on now. So we still have not published some of the month's financial reports, and we have to go back and redo the July and August reports that have been published for this new format. And so that's underway right now. So while these revised official financial reports are being created in conjunction with the auditors, management and the board can monitor our financial operations by looking at our internal financials, which are the basis, of course, for the prepared reports by BCS. And I'd like to just review those highlights and let you know how we're doing. So this schedule shows by month, July through October, what our financial results have been. And if you go to the total column, you can see we've had income of $816,000, and that is versus a budget of $814,000. So we're slightly ahead on that. And the categories of income are general revenue, which includes downtown center rental, Johnson City operating contribution, interest income, and facilities rental, that kind of thing. And then we have the John Sevier revenue, which of course is the leasing revenue, and we have TIF revenue. And all of those categories are very close to budget. TIF revenue is slightly above. As I think we know, that tax revenues haven't suffered like one might have thought during the COVID time. And so the TIF revenues came in as expected. If you look at the expense categories, again, with the total, we have total expenses for the first 4 months of $1,060,000. And we have a net loss for that same period of $243,000. But the reason for that net loss is not because of operations, it's because we paid $500,000 down a payment on the John Sevier loan. So in this accounting, that counts as an expense. It's actually a reduction in debt. Versus the budget, we're positive versus the budget by $208,000, and I'll talk about that in a moment on the next slide. If you look at our financial position, which is primarily cash, We started the year at June 30 with $2.8 million of cash. And currently today we have, as of October 31, we have 2.6 million of cash. That's a reduction of 243,000. And I thought I would show you where that cash went on the reconciliation below. The John Sevier loan was negative 500,000, the payment on the John Sevier loan. So that was the main portion of why we had negative cash flow. We had a benefit in that the one of our TIF loans was shown in the schedule as payable on October 30. It didn't actually get paid until November 1st, which was the day they billed us for it. But that shows up as a positive there. So that offsets some of the John Sevier loan payment. In any case, our cash is negative, but it's ahead of plan. So to summarize, the financial position of the JCDA remains solid. The general operations, John Sevier Center, and TIF results, if you look at them separately, they're all very close to budget. The bank covenants and other financial requirements are all being met, and the restructure of the financial reporting formats are well underway.
Thank you, Jim.
I will take a second just to thank Jim for all the work that he has done there, and let you know that you are perfectly, if you would like to reach out to Blackburn Children's Stegall, you can contact Mike Eddy or Karen McMurray. Both of them have been working on this project with us, and they would be able to tell you the delays and what they have been able to do to help us through this process.
When do we expect those months that we're having to go back on to redo them will be finalized?
At this point, I don't think we'll have it by the end of the year. It's possible. That's the goal, is to have it done before we leave for Christmas, but I think it'll be in January. It's just so much detail.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I would, Jim, you anticipate having at least 3 months, if not all 4 months, ready by the January meeting, correct?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to the chair report, we will be delivering lunch and small Christmas gifts to the residents of the John Sevier on Wednesday, December 16th, starting at 11:45 a.m. Staff has worked out a contactless way for the delivery, and if you haven't signed up and would like to help, please let Diana know. As far as staff reports, Diana?
Yes, so as usual, we have our staff reports in the packet. You can see all that the three of us have been working on. We've heard from Jim and all that he's been doing. Lindsay, if you wouldn't mind giving just a small update on some of the projects you've been working on.
Sure. So in addition to what's in my staff report, I'm working heavily on our 2021 marketing plan for the downtown district, including marketing plans for merchants, residents, and also visitors. So I'm making a general version of the marketing plan for what we want to see for the entire year, but then also a deeper dive into a month-by-month basis for plans and arrangements to come through with everything going on in downtown and what we hope to see for the upcoming year. Also working on plans to, hopefully have our signature events again, like Founders After 5, with some regulations and modifications to it. So hopefully we'll be able to have live music again in downtown. We've seen it happen other places and ways to do about it. So hopefully working with the city, we can come up with a solution. So that's one big thing that I'm working on right now, in addition to the staff reports.
And I do want to take the opportunity to congratulate Lindsay. She just received her MBA, and she also finished a program through Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association for marketing and tourism. Kudos to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Also, too, I forgot to mention business recruitment. So I've got an intern starting, which I'm really excited about in January, and she comes with a lot of video background. So I'm hoping that it is a great way for us to segue into some business recruitment by recording some videos. I'll get with Shannon on maybe seeing some vacant properties and going through and recording a what could be here type deal, or what do you want to see, and maybe get some public opinion on that as well. So we'll kick that off mid-January if all goes as planned. So thanks, everybody. I see the comments coming in. Appreciate it.
The last thing in your packet is we've talked about our KRAs and our KPIs. And in our last consulting session on Wednesday, we did some highlighting of priorities. And so just want to remind you that we put these out every 30 days. They are my goals that I'm passing on also to the staff and projects that we're taking on. The priority for the next 30 days continues to be our work on the management agreement, the work that we're doing with HUD, and then also LHP. And then the other thing is, as you see highlighted, we will keep in front of the media and any public information that we need to prepare about the changes in the John Sevier status. If you'll look at the very end, you'll see every month we will also put in a progress report of things that we have accomplished. This is a live document, and we will update it every month, like I said, and it will be ready for staff evaluations at any given time. That's all I had.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And with that, we will stand adjourned. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy
Merry
Hanukkah.
Christmas.
Merry
All the
Christmas.
things. Happy
Take care,
holidays.
everybody.